All right, so welcome to Generational Talk. It's been about 3 years since we had our last episode. In 3 years,
Yeah.
let me see. I think we just gained a new president, but the world still oddly feels the same. Yeah, yeah,
That can be debated.
yeah. Okay, maybe worse. That's right. There was a lot of events we didn't cover. But by same, I still mean upside down. So,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, it still feels
Yes.
upside down. But in this case, we're focusing on the hip hop battle between Kendrick and Drake. That's the I think that really works for generational talk because what's happening now seems to be the first time in a long time that we had a battle like this. And
Yeah.
we're not talking about like Generation X, we're talking about millennials. For the most part, I mean, there have been little type of beefs in hip hop, but to my knowledge, this is the first like big one to probably be put in the record books of music in general. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is definitely we're definitely talking about a scenario right now where things have escalated to a degree where we're seeing a mishmash of some of the old school aspects of the battle rap, the bravadas, the going back and forth, gravitas, excuse me, and going back and forth, kind of defending your camp and defending your honor type of deal that you've seen with lyricists and MCs over the years. Um, but I think we'd also be very, very remiss if we don't take a sharp look at the state of our world and the reality of what's happening.
mhm.
Um, the reality of rap and where rap is, the sharp difference between kind of an artist of Kendrick Lamar's kind of status, being a lyricist, being someone who really writes poetry, Pulitzer Prize winner, right? Like the guy has some stuff, and you have someone with like Drake that kind of encompasses the almost Michael Jackson sort of Taylor Swift media darling, unifying everyone. At some point, everybody's got a favorite Drake song that they, have really just enjoy. And so to see those two go after it, um, I think we'd also be remiss if we don't have the opportunity to talk about some of the decisions that are being made, including J. Cole's decision to step out,
Mhm.
just completely check out. And in light of, I believe it's May the 7th at 8:14 p.m., in light of some of the news that came out earlier today, we're all sitting back wondering if J. Cole isn't the smartest one out of all of them.
Right.
So much is happening right now. And I think the interesting thing we talked about too, is so much emphasis is being placed on the artists and what the artists are saying, but we also have to account for the lessons we learned from Biggie and Tupac and some of the other beefs we've seen in history, and understanding that sometimes these sort of issues can often can blend and bleed off of wax and into real life. And that's kind of why I was surprised before today. I was surprised that hadn't happened yet with some of the shots that have been taken.
Mhm. But how did this start? I
How
mean,
did it
I
start?
feel like yeah, I feel like there's ever since like the early 2010s, I mean, this big three has definitely stood out amongst, a lot of the trap artists, Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick Lamar. So I think, they've always been among the biggest in our generation, 80s babies. But
Yeah.
I think among like modern hip hop, they have been among the big three. But it seems like now it's time for the number one title, and that's what this battle's for.
I That's interesting that you say that. And I think it's because I would not say so confidently these two represent like the pantheon of rap, because especially with our generation, I think
Yeah.
what's happening is you look back at going back to like early 2000s and then really just kind of 2000 and on up, right? With
Hmm.
our generation,
Hmm. Oh
yes,
yeah,
those
I
three
know
are
what you're
up there.
saying. We haven't even mentioned Lil
Yeah,
Wayne. You're right. I know
exactly.
exactly where
So
you're going.
Lil
Yeah,
Wayne,
yeah.
Jay-Z,
Well,
right?
Jay-Z's Gen X. It depends what you're talking
Well,
about.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, it was, I mean, he's still in there. He's still nobody's talking about Ti, right?
right. Yeah, that's
But you have
close.
this kind of scenario where it
Right.
feels like all of them, even to a degree, like Lil Wayne, like all of them have kind of graduated kind of slowly out of the
Hmm.
space,
Hmm.
right? Again, J. Cole was a little bit younger, Kendrick was a little bit younger, um, and then Drake, of course, being younger than them. So they're coming in off of that generation that was kind of shifting their way out. Um, and it's this funny area where this is almost turned into, again, in my particular perspective, this is turned into a fight that I don't think was necessary.
Right.
I think there are more than enough households. Like, this is deeper than what we're being presented with. More than enough households, more than enough sharing, more than enough types of listeners who
Right.
can appreciate both types of music. More than enough people now, like again, our ages who are grown out of just listening to West Coast or just listening to East Coast. Like,
Hmm.
people are really burying their stuff. The streaming platform, anyone
Hmm.
can listen to anything at any time. So this is not like I'm
It's
trying to take over the airways type of deal.
tribal and also tribalism. I felt like, if anything, I
Heavy.
never really got a tribal feel from the millennial generation in general, but
Yeah.
even in hip hop, I didn't get that tribal feel. So let's see. So we have J. Cole. He was born in 1985. Uh, Drake was born in 1986, and J. Cole was 87. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're like core 80s babies there.
Yeah.
Just putting in perspective. So yeah,
Yeah.
and what would you say the nature of? Let's backtrack. Like, give what would you say the nature of hip hop is in general? Like, and we had like, what is the sound of the
My
2010s and the
God.
2020s?
Oh,
And
my
do
God.
these three artists fit that sound?
ah, no.
Yeah, so
These
that's
three
the thing.
artists.
Like, yeah, they're the biggest ones, but I can't really say that they fit the sound that we've mostly had over the last decade and a half. That trap
Well, I
sound.
think, but that also goes into again, kind of looking at the way I want to use the term looking at the way the pendulum swings, but
Hmm.
I think that's a complete misnomer because that would be referring to the styles going back and forth and kind of going back to areas that we've been before. That's not what this thing is doing. This
Hmm.
thing is leapfrogging and kind of shifting and moving. And, I take it back to, you look at the way hip hop's moved in certain areas. And I'm not talking about, I mean, neither one of us are purists, purist hip hop heads that are, down here listening to the KRS One on our, our walks and all. But we've been around, we grew
Hmm.
up in this genre, we listen to this music, we're familiar with it.
Right.
And from the non-purist standpoint, I mean, we're talking about the evolution of rap kind of going through, in our high school days, you get that heavy New York sound, the
Right.
Wu-Tang sound,
Boom
the
bap.
Mobb Deep sound,
Hmm.
going through who my boys the Annie Up. Um oh
What up? I'm drawing a blank
help me
too.
out. They said Annie Up
I know
with Mobb Deep,
Buster Rhymes was in
Buster Rhymes killing
Funk
the
Master.
MTV.
Yeah.
So like we go through all
Hmm.
of that transition, right? To
Hmm.
get that we get a good healthy dose of that. And so again, like I
Then an
always make the
ATL
joke
takes
down.
over. ATL takes over in the
Well,
2000s.
slow down,
Yeah.
slow down, slow down, because like the Wu Tang sound
Oh,
had
yeah.
dudes in South Florida wearing super baggy jeans and
Right.
Timberlands in 90-degree weather. Like that's how
Right.
big the influence was. Then you go over to West Coast,
Hmm.
and then you got Tupac, and you got Snoop, and you got Death Row. You got those guys, right? Again, kind of making the loop back around to what NWA was doing back in the day. We start
Right.
hitting there, you get all this beef, but then all of a sudden the South starts rising up. Outkast, Goody
Outcast.
Mob, Lil Jon, yeah, all those dudes that start coming up, and then okay, we got new players. They used to say on the Street Fighter, a new challenger has entered. You start going into this area, and so yeah, we've seen. I think something very very interesting happened. I think number one, Kendrick in his purest form doesn't really sound like West Coast rap.
Hmm. You're right.
He has songs where he can do that, and he'll do that, but traditionally he doesn't sound like the Crip walking. All the majority
Right.
of his stuff doesn't kind of come away with that particular sound.
Right.
Um,
I think the closest that we got to the Crip Walk, that type of sound is what's the one that just released?
Yeah, not like us. Yeah,
Yeah, not like
yeah.
us.
So you got that sound, right? Then you got J. Cole, right? J. Cole was kind of, you kind of want to put him in that New York kind of type of feel, but
Right, but
like,
where is it? Where is he from?
exactly, Carolinas, right? So
Yes,
so so he's got that southern feel to him.
right. But
And
there's
then
something
you
about
have,
that feels generational too. That's what I'm saying. Like there's no the lines there are no clean lines with the millennials.
well then,
It's not really regional. That's why,
well,
we're not gonna I can't really see us having a regional war like Biggie and Tupac. What is it gonna be, US and Canada? I mean, is that
well,
is that
well,
is that the regional war?
but I think that's also where we find ourselves right now, and that's why I think when you talk about those two, we talk about Kendrick, talk about J. Cole. Now
Mhm.
we focus it on Drake, where I'm not gonna lie, Drake came out,
Right.
love some of his stuff he was doing. Love my light
And
skinned brothers out there just kind of
right.
killing it. But
And still
I
love. I mean,
think
he's fun, he's fun.
he is, but he
Like
lacks
stick to the
something.
melody. Don't,
He lacks something that all of our other rappers had,
okay.
which was a home base.
Hmm.
Now he'll talk about the
I see
six
where you're
all
going.
day long, and
Hmm.
he'll talk about Canada all day long, right? But Kendrick is still from the West Coast. Cole is still talking about Dreamville.
He has
He's
no
still
home
talking about
base.
he's still talking about
He
home
has
base. Drake's home base is wherever he thinks wherever he thinks the next hit record is gonna come from. And that dude has, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna use a word, and I say this as a dude that has enjoyed Drake music. He has no qualms about appropriating a sound.
right,
And you
and
think
that's
about
right. Hmm.
when he came up, he was with Young Money. Then he went off and did the Six thing. Then he's out there doing twisted slides. Then
Hmm.
he's over there making reggae records. Then
Right,
he's out there with
right,
UK drill rap.
right.
Like, okay, like, but again, right, for
Who
our
is
fans
Drake? Is
at
he
the 97
authentic?
point,
Who is he? Yeah,
he's morph. He's
yeah.
morph.
He
So
doesn't pass the hip hop purity test.
I think that's one of the problems that Kendrick
Yeah,
has with this guy.
he goes
Yeah,
against everything that he preached about in Mr. Morale, Kendrick's
I
latest
think
album.
so. Yeah, yeah. It's hard though,
And
right?
I see the
Because
seed to this, by the way. I'm looking back at Be Humble in Kendrick songs, wondering,
yeah.
has he been rapping about Drake this whole time, or the Drake caricature, the personality?
Well, or has he been seeing this evolution happening over the past
Right,
several decades
right.
and has been talking about this amalgamation,
Hmm.
which is now Drake?
Right. Yeah. When he says, so, basically no big threes, just him, just me. When he says that, do you think that's ego, or do you think that's me against the world? Like, or is there something a little bit more genuine and deeper there? Like he does really feel like he's responsible to
I
carry on something, a legacy,
I mean, I'd
whatever
be
that
remiss.
is, whatever
I
that
don't I
legacy
don't
is.
think with everything that he's shown us,
Hmm.
you have to believe that there's another layer or dimension deeper than what's being shown to us.
Right.
I think the line comes off as just straight gravitas. Like, you know, it is, I am separate. I
Hmm.
am different. I am set apart. Now,
Hmm.
that line to me
Hmm.
is interesting because I would also make the same parallels between Kendrick and J. Cole
Hmm.
being very, very staunch representatives of where they are, where they're
Hmm.
from, what they represent, what they've gone through, and being able to kind of coexist within the mindset and the area of where they are, but also being representative of the higher ideals of
Hmm.
rising above where they've come from.
Hmm.
J. Cole talks about it all the time and has no problem shouting it out and has
Right.
no problem putting his people on in that particular area. The same thing with Baby King, whom I can't stand. Nothing against him. It just ain't my music. But Kendrick is out there. He got no problem. That's fam. He come through. I'm lift him up. It just feels like they have a home base to elevate,
Hmm.
and their sound is often indicative. And now, mind you, I'm taking out some of their earlier songs where they had studio obligations they had to do to make a club that could be played, make a song that could be played in the club, or make a song that's this, or hey, we're gonna get, you owe us this song, go do this.
Right.
Like taking those out, like the majority of their discography is based upon who they are as artists, and who they are as artists reflects who they are as people, and who they are as people reflects the growth that they've gone through.
And Drake, and going back to Drake, I mean, really, I'm wondering if Drake is, I mean, not Drake, but Kendrick. I wonder if Kendrick is coming out of nowhere for a lot of people. I've been a Kendrick fan since the beginning, but I'm wondering if he's coming out of, like, is this, or people are being introduced to Kendrick Lamar right now? That's what I wonder. Like, do people remember how, like, All Right was basically the soundtrack of most Black Lives Matter marches?
Yeah.
Because when I feel like he's always been big, but I wonder if he's just now starting to make an imprint, a national imprint. Yeah, I mean, even though he won the Pulitzer, I haven't seen as much conversation about him on TikTok.
Yeah, but you got to think about what's happening though. There's two things. I think number one, it's the fact that, like, has he always been relevant? I don't know why. And again, I'm just kind of going off of headlines. I don't know why Floetry has come up in recent news. I don't know if something's going on or what happened, but basically, like, listen, like, if y'all are around our age and I say Floetry, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, if you know, right? And you know, them sisters were bad, right? But they're not Destiny's Child, and they're not SWV, and they're not some of the other, which is a very short list. They're not on the list of like some other female acts that are super big. But if you know, you know. And so I put Kendrick in that area where, like, Kendrick has always been dope and always been strong, but has he always appealed to the masses? And more importantly, has he ever really tried to appeal to the masses? I don't think he has. Meanwhile, you have the male version.
He just expresses his own journal entry with each album. That's what he focuses on. You mentioned his need to, or his, how he comes off like the individual. You know, I'm an Enneagram fan. I'm not going to go too far into that territory, but I do see him with some Enneagram 4, some Enneagram 6, you know, has that emotional sensitivity that, you know, and then I see Drake representing the cliche Enneagram 3, who wears mask, who appeals more to, who plays the game to appeal more to everyone, but who are you? I see that as Drake. So I see this also as a battle ball. Being authentic. That's the Four's war, you know, making sure that whatever world they favor remains pure. So I see some of that personality coming into this as well.
So I'm gonna be a little controversial here for a second, and I will first go to, I don't think there's any, Kendrick is Kendrick. You look at Kendrick and you can make an assumption on him based upon his stature or the way that he looks. And you, of course, if you were silly enough to make an assumption about who he is as a person, you clearly would be wrong, because we all know that the man is a phenomenal talent. He is one of the greatest lyricists that we have. He is an even better poet and communicator in the way he's able to put his things together. Man's brilliant, right? So if you look at him and you make a judgment, and your judgment isn't, okay, well, this dude's like a walking legend, then that's on you, and that's on your own prejudices, right? J. Cole at one point could maybe kind of slide in before he went like full on Rastafarian from a style standpoint. Like, I'm just going to like do what I want to do. Because we all remember, like, Cole had like a little fade and he had like a little clean goatee.
Yeah.
And
that was a whole different sound. He was with Jay-Z around that time, right?
It was around, yep, it was. And he, you know, he's gone Basquiat and then some more with this stuff. But at the same time, though, the craftsmanship of his work has reached intergalactic levels. Like, this dude, his stuff is just his stuff, man. I think it's Uncle P's caddy. I think with oh man, Benny the Butcher, like that his verse alone is he just keeps getting stronger and stronger.
Mhm.
And again, as a light skinned dude that's growing up in the South, J. Cole, I could see him being able to exist in a couple of different worlds, especially with him being very articulate, very intelligent. You can walk in a couple of different worlds,
Mhm.
especially as a lighter skinned person around the South area. Now we
Yeah.
talk about Drake.
Well, and I'm
And
glad. I hope you're going where I hope you're going. Yeah, keep going. Because we have the
so we
same
talk about
situation
Drake,
here.
and so I think you've got a similar situation,
Right.
but a dynamic that many people don't understand if you're not there. I
Hmm.
can understand potentially I can understand a J. Cole's perspective where you are fair skinned, you are able to exist in both areas. Your intelligence and maybe your intelligence, uh your ability to be articulate and communicate your thoughts, your scholastic aptitude, you can walk in some other areas. You live in the streets, but your academic prowess allows you access into different school systems and to walk in some different areas.
Hmm.
That's something that I can relate to as growing up. There is that you have the ability to walk in different worlds. You're encouraged to walk into different worlds. Dre's situation, I
He's a
think,
middle class. He's a middle class rapper.
no, I'm not. No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Mhm.
I'm just saying like the stuff he talks about
Mhm.
is real because he
Right.
saw it and he lived it.
Hmm.
But when you have that type of aptitude to be
Hmm.
able to be in higher grade classes and
Hmm.
to go into honors classes and to go to college, at some point there's a separation.
Hmm.
At some point there's a separation. So in some places, your hood, your neighborhood, your groups will actually they will protect you because
Hmm.
they want you to succeed. They want you to go out there, right?
Hmm.
Um, there's instances all over of that. Dre's situation, I think, is a little bit different because you're literally talking about someone who, from the own admission and the little bit of information that we knew, like this dude really did walk into two worlds. And the world that he originally kind of walked into was the child. Well, he was on TV as a child. He's um,
Degrassi.
going back and forth. Like, yes, he spent time with his dad, but like you literally, you weren't just you didn't have the ability to walk into different worlds. You were
Hmm.
transported into different worlds. You
Hmm.
had access into different
He
worlds.
was pretty much,
And
but he was in different worlds, but probably just a few blocks from being a part of the Mickey Mouse Club.
yeah, yes, which is the polar opposite of kind of what we're talking about with Cole and talking about Kendrick. Now,
Hmm.
far be it for me to talk about what this dude saw, what he grew up with, and what have you. But
Hmm.
there has been a turn if you pay attention to the Drake music.
Hmm.
There was a turn that happened several years ago where it went from, hey, I'm a guy that has some talent and I can make it in this, and I'm trying to climb
You're
my
right.
way up from the bottom to get into this rap game to
That's why I
like
liked him.
six God mob boss.
Hmm. Right.
But we were all still jamming to it, right?
Hmm.
So there's that evolution that happened very fast, very quickly. The access, um, there's again, I could see there being some disdainment for how
Exactly.
those things kind of come about and
And it's
the
appropriation of a
clash.
culture. So it's not a light skin, it's not a dark skin, it's not colorism. It's more about appropriation of a culture, of a genre,
You know,
of an
I'll
art.
take you one further. I wonder if this didn't start because I don't think that this is inherently started from the beginning because I think again, if you look at Drake the first couple of years,
Hmm.
the content of his lyrics, the content of his music, the way that he moved, like he was that was a different dude.
Hmm.
And what we have now is a different
Hmm.
dude,
Is he
which goes
different?
into
Because I
your
feel like part of what Kendrick is saying is you haven't grown up. So different in what way?
well, I think different. I would say grow up in terms of you are looking at someone who's continuing to find masks to put
Hmm.
on.
Okay. Mask.
There's a
Yeah.
different evolution. The best way I can put it is maybe using a Dragon Ball Z reference where there's always another power level to go to.
Mm-hmm.
There's always another this, another that, and
Mm-hmm.
stack up, stack up, stack up. And it's not necessarily coming through the evolution of your lyrics like we saw with J. Cole or we saw with Kendrick. Like Kendrick, again, Kendrick has kind of done almost what Dave Chappelle has done, which is turned
Mm-hmm.
into almost like a griot. Like it's not even comedy when it comes to Dave sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just college
Mm-hmm.
educated lessons
Right.
on life and just perspectives.
It's a calling.
It's a
It's a calling.
it's a calling and it's an art.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to Kendrick stuff will put you in that space. That's
Yeah.
why people are out here trying to break down the lyrics and stuff because they
Mm-hmm.
are so
Right.
strong.
Right.
Like this beef isn't like we're not sitting back here again. We're not sitting back here dissecting Drake lyrics.
Right.
We're here dissecting Kendrick's lyrics,
And he
and
knows
then
that.
trying to figure out. Yeah, I mean
That's why he started to put his songs out back to back without even giving Drake enough time to get up. He knows that.
That was
He stole the show.
I
I mean,
was
I
live
that
when
was
that happened.
yeah. We were alive. That brings up another point. So I'm talking to. I have a 13-year-old now. He wasn't 13 when we last shot a generational talk. He wasn't 13.
Yep. Nope.
So I'm talking
Nope.
to him about rap, and then it occurred to me that I am a guy in his 40s talking to a kid about rap music. That didn't really happen to us. So I'm like, okay, is it weird? Like, is it weird to have parents talking about hip hop? Um, and these they're still the biggest thing out. Like they aren't. I can't really think of that many younger rappers. But the point is, Josiah, my son, eventually he looked at me. He said, "Well, it's really no different than like how all the old people used to talk about jazz back in the day, right? The old people talk about jazz,
Yeah. Yeah.
sitting around the record player, collecting records, talking about jazz. Rap is
Yeah.
the new jazz."
I agree. First of all, I think just when you share that with me, just the fact that that sort of wisdom is coming from a 13-year-old is amazing. Like that's just that's so cool. That's so cool. Um, but I think it also hits back to something that has challenged um our culture, and I dare even say go as far as to say Black culture just as a whole. There's a missing generation
Mm-hmm.
because yes, you had people who are arguing about jazz greats, and then you go back to my father's generation. A lot of their conversations are about Frankie Beverly and Mays,
Mm-hmm.
Commodores. Those great bands that were back in the day that really kept things moving. And then maybe there was some conversation about R&B, right? I mean, like there's Boys to
Right.
Men,
Yeah.
Jodeci, right? Like
Yeah.
New Edition. Like you can have like some of these conversations, but I don't feel like again rap was aged enough. Rap was not old enough and mature enough, in my opinion, to make its way into their conversations.
Mm-hmm.
They were still playing around. Now,
Right.
mind you, that is not to show any sort of discredit to Rakim,
Mm-hmm.
LL Cool J, or any of those greats that were back then that really the giants did, but that wasn't a predominant form of music. This was still a subgenre around that time. So I
And
don't know
if
that
you
they would
say
have had that conversation.
right, and if you say rap came, I mean, I think some people would date the birth of hip hop, what, 1974, 70.
Yeah,
I mean, it started with there were some precursors, but I would definitely
yeah,
start it maybe in 79.
yeah,
Um, what was that, Rapper's Delight? Um,
yeah. Robert Delight. Yeah, yeah,
so if you think about it, and we were born in 81, we're basically the hip hop generation.
yeah,
So I see this very timely. I see this. I don't know. I wouldn't call it a midlife crisis, but maybe something related to the identity of a genre, the life of a genre. The
yeah.
genre right now is trying to figure out who are they, will they continue the same game, and where will they be in the future. I think that's what's happening right now. I see Drake. I mean, I see Kendrick Lamar trying to have that conversation. What is the state of hip hop? If
Ooh,
this is his calling, then he's a prophet.
wow, wow. That's that's really deep.
So the last question that I brought up was, is Kendrick like a prophet? Is he trying to save hip hop? Is he trying to free hip hop from slavery? And I think that's ironic because that came up though, like lyric, Drake called him out like you're preaching like you're trying to free the slaves. And of course, you know, that was a analogy to black slavery. But I mean, if he's a prophet, it's Egypt, everything. Not to belittle or dismiss anything, but I think he has that. He's bringing that passion to this situation, that energy.
He's he's definitely coming off as a prophet. Even in the conscious black community, they peep that and they're praising him for that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they're what I was about to say. Uh, a lot of the stuff that he mentioned in his rhymes regarding reparations that
Mm-hmm.
triggered a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the conscious community, from what I've seen and listened to while I'm out working, they're definitely Kendrick is winning. He's definitely a prophet in their eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the way I've looked at this the last couple of days has been, and I hate to say this, but a Key and Peele skit between the MMA fighters, and you've got one traditional regular American MMA fighter. I'm gonna smash him, and there's not even gonna be anything left. Type of I'm gonna get this dude, and I think it was Key on the other end. The other dude, what was basically just this religious zealot whose eyes had no emotion, that just said, I'm going to dismantle and remove his spleen from his body, and he'll be unable to move, and his family will be around him, surrounded in the bed, crying out to God to give life, to just take him with. And it's like, hold on now. Like, I thought we was just, like, we just playing, right? Like, we just playing around. Kendrick ain't playing, dog. Like, no. he's not
I think
playing.
Drake represents everything that he preaches about or preaches against. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if the allegations or the accusations are true. Just how he's responding kind of points out the problem, what he's saying, the hypocrisy.
So I gotta make this point.
And so he almost honestly did a checkmate. Like Drake can't even sue him because that would open up the door to an investigation. So
allegedly,
but it's checkmate. He's playing chess here.
When Drake opens up the song, the last couple of responses, when Drake opens up the song, you hear him doing the traditional rapper beat. Like you see him repping up or kind of gearing up for a song to go. To go into his subject matter, right? But it starts out like any other Drake song, like it gets there, right? The last couple songs, with the exception of Not Like Us, like Euphoria, and especially Meet Grams, Kendrick came on and was like, "Yo, Adonis."
Soon as the song started,
and I think the area is. I think what this is this is a very good example of how we are not a monolith. We do not have to exist on the same level playing field. Listen, bro, if you want to go out there and you want to do reggaeton records, and you want to do the Cubana record, and you want to do something with you want to resurrect the dead ghost of Eazy-E, and then you want to do something with you can do that. You can go out there and you can do that. And Drake's had a very successful career of going out there and doing that, right? Like I don't know where like the little hair barrette thing can come from. Painting your nail. Bro, there's a space for all that right now.
Yeah, okay? And I think he's just trying to have fun. I don't think there's even a problem with that. But I don't even think Kendrick is going after that. He's saying you can have your melodies and dance, make me dance. I'm fine. But there's
another place where you can exist and you can be pure in that hip hop. That's why I feel like what we're seeing is this isn't a culture war. Like we're talking about tonight the differences in the cultures, and Jared brought up a really good example of like the conscious rap community. Like there is a conscious rap community, the same way that there's a bop community, same way that there's a bounce community in New Orleans. Like these different things exist. What's happening right now is outside of that, and it feels personal. And I think the danger is that the danger in this is that one person is taking this seriously. The other person is beginning to understand just how serious this is. And that's where, again,
and J. Cole was in the middle. There must have been a phone call in the middle somewhere.
Bro, I feel like J. Cole
asking the middle child to just step out. Don't come to school today.
And he was like, I don't want no smoke.
Bro, I don't even think it's smoke. I think it was, I feel like it was more or less like, you don't understand what you're walking into. Like you already came out and made a record with your boy, right? Like you don't even know everything that's going on. Because again, like when you look at Cole is just out here. We were talking about it earlier, like how he came into the game clean pressed with the little fade and like the little light skin, like he's just out here like living a Rastafarian lifestyle without a care in the world. I really kind of feel like maybe that's how he exists. Like the dude just runs in the orbits that he wants to. So maybe he had no idea. But it really did feel like, and again, I hate to go back to this as well, but Cat Williams told us what 2024 was going to be.
Yes.
And I'll be doggone if this has not turned out exactly the way that he proclaimed it was to be.
It's not over yet.
His last special being trash.
I find it funny that J. Cole's album, the song that this song was on an album called Might Delete Later, and he ended up deleting the song. I mean,
right? I told you. Like it wasn't even a whole month.
Yeah.
No, J. Cole is not a liar. He ain't.
But I mean,
J. Cole
he's not a liar. He has integrity, and that's why Kendrick's war wasn't against him. That's why Kendrick was like, "Okay, you need to get out of this." Yeah. They probably had some type of side chat.
I don't know. Did y'all speak on it earlier? That is this another like preparation for a new Kendrick album? Because I feel like
it could be, but it still feels like it's more, because it seems like it's more than one album or prep for an album. Because I brought up to Dave, I think he's been preparing for this since his like very first albums. I feel like he's always been rapping against the Drakes of the world from like the Be Humble days and before.
I could say that on the last couple of albums. I think
the last couple.
I could see that being, and I think if you even want to take it further than that, which again, we're just going to do it. I think maybe that's him gearing up to fight a spiritual battle against the spirit of something that's against what he stands for, right? When he makes that album about, To Pimp a Butterfly, when he talks about the spiritual upliftment, when he talks about the humility, when he talks about some of these things that are out there, I feel like he was gearing up to battle against this. Maybe he just didn't have a face, and Drake just kind of showed up on the scene and kind of prepared himself. I don't know how I feel about the whole album thing, Jared, because I think what we're seeing right now is like, if he is gearing up to come up with an album, like number one, like that's fairly quick after his last album. So that would be a little bit out of character for him. But then also like the fact that like these songs that have been coming out, like these songs are tailor-made to do one thing, and that has destroyed the very soul of bbldrizzy. And I don't know.
Get that song out of my head.
Dude, it's such a dog. It's so, and let me just say this, right? Like at the same time, like we're sitting here, we're talking about this, but like y'all understand, like this thing has gotten to such a degree that we are not talking about Chris Brown not being arrested for the murder of Quavo for what he put on wax, which is illegal in every country. To be that bad. What was that about?
I don't know.
What was that?
That was not hip hop. That was something different.
Dude, we can't even talk about that now because of how big this thing has got. Like, that's crazy.
We're not talking about Puff Daddy.
Crazy.
He didn't.
Right. We don't have enough time to talk about Puff Daddy.
Okay,
We have
sorry.
enough time.
All right, okay. So wrapping it up,
There-
bringing it back. What happens now? I mean, like Kendrick can't even release another what's the album? What's the song? Hold on one second. What's the song? Part six. What is it? Part six?
Yeah,
Hold on.
yeah,
It's Heart, right? Part six.
yeah.
His
But
whole series. He can't even release another part six because Drake took that. Like, what happens to that legacy?
I mean, it just. I don't think that Kendrick is concerned with that.
Hmm.
I think there's nothing like I think that's again that's there's the pettiness,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say in this case, like, okay, like there have been some very, very serious accusations that have been laid out.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to keep this in mind. I think we're not just talking about serious accusations that we used to say back in the day, you used to challenge someone's sexuality. Oh, that's this. Oh, that's G. Oh, that's a G word. Oh, that's whatever, right? Like that's or saying, oh, so you talk white or you sound white, like you acting white. That's not what this allegation is.
Right.
This is 2024.
Right.
The allegations that are made are serious because people in high places, the boogeyman that we've been told about is real. He's been put on trial.
Mm-hmm.
They got Bill Cosby wrapped up in it.
Mm-hmm.
Weinstein was going down. Ghislaine Maxwell is still out there.
Nickelodeon
Doing something. The feet dude from Nickelodeon. Epstein is gone, allegedly. Epstein is gone.
That's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand. So if Drake was the one that leaked this, or he was behind this, he orchestrated this, he told his people to feed a false story to Kendrick. That's the dumbest move ever. Because like once you put that information out, like you don't spread a rumor about yourself. And once you put that out, it's never going to leave the public, the zeitgeist. Like if that label will be on you forever. And if the Drake did that, that's his fault now. And then on top of that, in his last album, he says he tells for one part of the song, he says that he calls them clowns, right? He calls the moles clowns.
Yeah.
And then he confessed to being behind it. So is he calling himself a clown? He doesn't know what he's doing.
I mean,
he doesn't know what he's doing.
I could again. I think if we put ourselves in that mind spot, in that spot, and we say maybe they fed the information out again. Like now we're going into movie territory, right? Mm-hmm. We're going into script territory. Okay, we're talking about a rapper who's supposedly playing 7D chess, seventh dimension chess, that has the foresight to say, I'm going to beat him to the punch and go to see if I have leaks on my team and leak that I have. Mind you, right? The way Lyric write, the way that Kendrick writes, they're talking about a daughter that Drake allegedly has that's 11 years old that happens to be the same name as a character that a certain young lady that Drake has been known to affiliate himself with has. Millie Bobby Brown plays a character named 11 on Stranger Things. And they talking about a daughter that's out there. And they done already have plenty of shots about pedophilia. Bro, I don't know what it means. All I know, I don't know when the milk expired. I know it don't smell right. And I'm not drinking it. I don't want it. I don't want anything to do with that. But if I come out here and I tell you that, hey, your breath stinks, your wife cheats on you, and you're a pedophile, and the last thing that you respond to is the accusation of being a pedophile, what are we doing? What are we doing?
He didn't even respond to it. He's bringing up details that Kendrick didn't even bring up in his part of the song. He named the problem.
Not only that, they had something where I think it was yesterday where there was gunshots outside his house or something like that.
Yeah, but that's something to do with the weekend. Yeah, I mean, everybody's taking shots taking shots at the king now. That's it. Yeah, go on.
Can I set that up? Why are the R&B singers the new rappers? Can y'all tell me that?
Right? I have no idea. Because I mean, I don't recall a time when Usher was trying to, have a beef with Justin Timberlake. So
Did they?
no, for the
No.
integrity of
Okay.
R&B.
No. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I ain't gonna say that. No. Usher
And then,
had too
and then,
much stuff
and then
going on.
Joe comes out of nowhere. Joe's
Hey,
like,
Joe.
Joe is
Hey,
like,
no, Joe.
there's
No.
no
No.
big.
No. No. Joe, don't keep Joe out of this. Joe is just over there. He's looking for a nice Latin woman. That's all Joe looking for. Just
Joe.
love me some Joe. Joe's dope, man.
Okay,
I
well,
don't know, man.
D'Angelo, is that a better one? D'Angelo? Maxwell?
I don't.
Who would be the Kendrick of R&B?
I don't know. I mean, listen, D'Angelo
Miguel?
always look like he'll rob you.
Who?
I mean, if we keep it in the buck, D'Angelo,
Hey,
D'Angelo,
D'Angelo
yeah.
always look like he'll
D'Angelo.
rob you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, are we wrapping it up? Where does this? I guess we don't know where it's going to go. It's probably just getting
I don't
started.
know.
Yeah.
Well, I think the one thing is right now it's been real quiet on the home front right now. We haven't seen anything else as of 5/7. We haven't seen anything else come out there. I will say I think the reality of this is, again, kind of grand scheme of things, do I think in some way, sense, or form that this, whether it's intentional or non-intentional, do I think this is a distraction? Yeah, I think this is an absolute distraction. There are too many other things that are going on in this world right now that are far more important than even some of the serious allegations that are being made out there. And we have wars that are going on. We're on the brink of a world war. We have
It still feels like
skirmishes that are
2020.
getting too close. It does.
It still it feels like we just had the last episode. I mean, the world is still at crisis.
So, I think
and now you could say music used to be a distraction, but now the war is in music. It's everywhere. Even comic books. It's everywhere.
I would make the appeal that I would hope that for as much attention as we are want to give this topic, because it is people that we grew up with, it's people that we listen to, it's people that we have introduced our children to in some cases. Like, yeah, this is really, really interesting because it can have some really, really far-reaching impacts. I mean, let's say some of these allegations are true. Like, we have not yet talked about the allegations against Diddy and what that could mean. And for us to not believe that that's a thing when the Epstein thing was rumored and talked about for decades and that turned out to be real, that's an issue. Like, this thread is slowly unwinding itself. We really need to be paying attention. But is this right now, this thing, is that what we should be paying attention to above the election, above knowing who our locally elected officials are, knowing who's going to be on the ballot, like making an actual change in our communities, or even knowing where the need is within your community so that you can go out there and help? If we spend the same amount of time breaking down the needs of our community as we have breaking down, these lyrics that they've been throwing out at each other, we might find ourselves in a better state to not be caught off guard like we have been. But
amen,
it's still entertaining as hell, though.
It's entertaining, but remember, it's not entertaining to Kendrick. It is part of the conversation. It's institutional, especially if the allegations are correct.
Yeah,
it's Me Too in Hollywood. It's basically the problem. It's all connected. It probably is connected.
I will say though that again, I just want this on wax as proof. It's May the 7th, 2024, 9:12 p.m. We just heard earlier today about there being shots outside of Drake's household. I've been wondering.
Not related to Kendrick, probably.
I'm not saying who's related to. I don't know who it's related to.
Something about the manager in the weekend. I don't know.
Allegedly. This feels like the next response we have, I don't believe that this gets played out on wax. I believe that it gets played out in real life.
Right.
That's where I feel like this is going to. This man wrote a song. This man in a song addressed his entire family by name. And it has nothing to do with allegations. It is, you are a horrible person at your core. You are dangerous. You are sick. You are a problem, bro. Like that's.
And he turned. And he turned Drake's social media game against him. He doesn't even need to. Kendrick doesn't need to come out with another song. Social media is now doing the diss song. That's where we're
And then
at.
they're saying Kendrick's disses has been played in the club on heavy rotation.
Yes, he's beating
It's
Drake at his own game. He won.